everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you the biggest art project that I've ever undertaken and why it took me over 300 hours to accomplish. I have a tendency to try to learn new skills in the most complicated way possible, so when I decided that I wanted to get better at Tunisian crochet, I undertook a ridiculously intense project. A friend of mine posted this beautiful picture on Facebook and said something along the lines of, I wish that I knew how to crochet so that I could make myself a sweater like this. And of course, being me, I piped up and said, I technically know how to crochet. I did a little bit of mock-up work with a bit of fabric. It was pretty easy to put it together. I did a bit of sketch work to figure out if I could refine the design a little bit more. And then I ended up purchasing some yarn. I kind of set it aside for a year or so, and I felt so guilty just having it sit in a box there, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Eventually I got around to being brave enough to actually get back to this project and try something else. I didn't really have any end goal in mind for what the video was going to be, but now we are officially starting this channel, and I wanted to share this particular project with y'all first because it's gorgeous and exciting and insane and a lot of fun. So yeah.
This is basically straight from the original picture. We have the shawl collar, we have the wide border around the outside, we have the stripes here, and the belt, some basic idea of where the colors start and stop. And this is basically what the border looks like. So it's a bunch of triangles with stitches going this way for the triangles on this side and that way for the triangles on that side. This has so much that's really, really nice about it. But again, I'm not wanting to directly copy this pattern. I'm wanting to get a lot of inspiration from it and make it a little bit more elvish, if that makes any kind of sense. So we're going to scrap the really dark purple lines, and we're going to do something slightly different for the border. So the other part that I don't know is I have no idea what the back of this looks like. So my thinking was to have the back be so in the front, it's just going to be this nice stripy blanket look for the skirt, but then in the back, these horizontal stripes, so this line is the same as this line here, it's going to come from here and start going up the back. And then right at the very bottom of it, it's going to be the same kind of horizontal stripes. So the belt is going to just end in another little stripe that's going to come up towards the side. So the belt's going to come up from the skirt and then create this really cool, almost corset look here. And then it's going to bend out into a stripe, and then everything else is going to just kind of bend around that and then get smaller and smaller and smaller as it gets down toward the bottom.
So I started by making a pattern for the entire thing. And I did a lot of experiments with how I could get the rows themselves to curve in the skirt. So obviously with crochet and Tunisian crochet and knit and things like that, you have things like doilies or hats where, you know, the rows do actually curve. But the problem was that these curves were going to be a lot more organic and not as formulaic as, say, like a circle would be. I was working really hard to try to figure out how to make this work. I did a whole bunch of little experiments, and eventually I figured out kind of a grid type process to make this work, and I decided that that was probably what I was going to go for, so I ended up making a full-size crochet mock-up.
So
So I just finished the trim all the way around, so that's this part here. I introduced the purple because I'm running out of yarn. So I didn't want to just use the whites and blues. I wanted to have a little bit of darker contrast in there, so I introduced the purple, and I think it goes pretty well with the colors. So let's give this a try on. This isn't exactly how I'll be doing the trim for the final one, but I thought it would feel really cozy for this one, so like so, like so. Look at this. It's so cozy. And I'm just in love with this skirt. The final skirt is going to be a bit longer, I think. Another 3 inches or so, and then the trim, so just a little bit longer.
I've been trying to get a bit of yarn-related work done, but this is kind of slowing me down a little. It is remarkably hard to crochet when you have a ridiculously adorable cat on your lap.
Okay, so here's the mock-up. All finished, all put together. The only thing I haven't done yet is like tuck in all the little tails, the little yarn bits. But you know, who actually needs to do that? Alright, so this is obviously out of a totally different yarn than we will end up using, but it does fit the pattern and it proves that I know how to do like all the basic techniques and things like that. So the first thing that I want to take note of is that I want the bodice itself to not quite match. So if we tuck in both of these sides here, you can see that they match up pretty nicely, right? And that's actually very snug. That fits perfect. However, I'll have to double check the picture, but I don't think this is actually supposed to meet up like this. I think it's supposed to meet up like this. So I'm gonna have to look more closely at the pictures, but I do know I want the belt to be a little bit wider. It could go up an inch, down an inch, and I kind of want it to go down in the center as well. So yeah, make it a bit bigger. That looks like about an inch both ways. And change the fit so that we need, what, 3-4 inches for the trim in between in order for it to fit perfect. So it fits perfectly now if you have it match.
So this is the skirt. This is obviously the Tunisian crochet. Before you block it, it's very curly. It will lay out just fine once I have more stitches on it and the trim around it and stuff, but when you're working on it, it's very curly. So this is the skirt so far, and these rows of stitches come across this way. You can kind of see up here. This is the tube of the crochet hook, which is super cool. There's no way I could do it without this thing. But yeah, so the stitches come across this way, and part way up I started curving them by adding in a few extra stitches down here and manipulating them in certain ways to curve up, and then by the time you come up here it starts curving this way. And right here, this marking spot here, is where the shoulder is. It wraps around to the front of the bodice and then back around to the back of the bodice, and this is where it attaches back to the skirt. So there's actually going to be a few rows in between here that make up the rest of the bodice, and then this part is going to be attached, kind of slip stitched together back onto the skirt itself.
You sweet kitty. Require snuggles.
This is definitely in Thneed mode at the moment. Like, what even is this? How does this work? Where does it come from? Where does it go? But today we are getting to do what I call the cinnamon seam. So this is the skirt right here. This is half of the back of the skirt. Here's the other half. This is the center of the skirt, and you can kind of see how this is gathered up right here. That's because there's actually the long tube of the crochet hook right here is actually going all the way down the side of the sleeve right here, all the way through here, and then all the way along all of this.
Check out this magical device I got for my birthday. We take little ugly yarn balls like this and we make beautiful cakes like this. Okay, this is before. And done. Ta-da! Look at how fast this goes. I love it.
So I have this long seam to do, and this is my Afghan crochet hook with a bunch of stitches on it, and I need to get this edge attached to this finished edge. So the technique that I decided to use for the seam is just a little bit of clever stitch work that makes it look a lot like 2 rows of Tunisian crochet. It's not actually, it just looks like it, and that was kind of my goal. But as I'm coming along, it's starting to look a lot better. It fits in really nice. It is definitely a little bit raised, so it has a little bit of texture, but honestly, from a long ways away, you're really not going to notice very much at all, so I am pretty happy with that.
Are you trying to get some work done?
Yes.
The back of the Tunisian stitch doesn't look all that nice. I mean, it's not terrible, but it doesn't look very good. And on this part of it, you're going to want to be able to see it on both sides because the neckline is going to be folded up and then the rest of the time it's going to be folded back. So I think I'm going to switch to this, but I also think I'm going to take this out too because I wanted the first part to be like purple going down to about the belt area, and this was all the purple I had, so we got to orange very quickly, and I don't really like the orange against this. I want the orange to be further down the skirt, so I dug around. I do actually have one more of the Italian plum available, and also I have a lot of sapphire, which is this one, which I think will go really well like right here at the back, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna keep going. So I think that'll get us much further. And yeah, that's about it. So we've gotten almost half the front done, and I redid the sleeves. Got almost all of the left front done. That's gonna be perfect. Like so. And see, this can be nicely flipped over like that. And you can still show off the back.
I ended up changing my mind about the bodice a little bit. On the mock-up, I just had the curves coming in on the back of the skirt and then up and then over the shoulder and straight down to the belt section. But I had this cool idea to actually bring them up over the shoulder and then have some of them go straight down to the belt section, but have some of them come around under the arm, back around to the back, and then back down to the skirt. And that sounds extremely complicated, but eventually it ended up making sense and working, at least for me. This project took me hundreds of hours to do. It ended up being about 300 hours for the final product itself, but the entire process before that also took hundreds of hours to do. This project was so much fun. It taught me so much about not only, how to do a Tunisian crochet project, but also just how to do a fiber art project in general. I had never made any kind of crocheted item other than, like, I had made a beret, I'd made a couple of mittens, a scarf here and there, but I'd never done anything, on such a huge scale. But it was just so much fun to work on. It felt like a huge blanket that was wrapped around me, and I was very happy that I ended up finishing it just in time for those beautiful yellow flowers to bloom. It ended up looking so pretty behind me. It was so much fun to swirl in. I sent it off to my friend, and it was a really surreal feeling to have to box this up and make a little tag for it with my logo and send it away and be like, I'm probably never gonna see this again, because my friend lives in Tennessee. I only see her every few years, and it was really strange to be able to send away a project this big. I had made things like paper flowers and stuff like that to send away to customers before, but I'd never ever made something that literally sold for 4 digits. I didn't know that I had the ability to make something this big, something that ended up looking this cool, and I have a lot more projects in the future that I want to tackle. On this channel, I'm going to be sharing my art journey through a whole bunch of different mediums, primarily things related to fashion like crochet or knit or sewing, embroidery, but also I want to share other kinds of art as well. I love drawing, I love painting, and I love learning new skills. So stay tuned to see me try new things and make things and do things and experiment with things, and I hope you have fun. So let me know in the comments if you have anything you would like to see me try, and stay tuned for more beautiful art, and have an amazing rest of your day.